in history. Hey, so I just got finished reading this book, and I want to explain a quote to you because when I read it, it totally blew my mind. But the thing is, I didn't understand why it blew my mind, and that was a problem. So I found a bunch of things that were cool in there, but I wanted to go for like the hardest part. This quote. We're gonna break it down. So the context for the book is called Image and Logic by Peter Galison. It was written in 1997. He's a Harvard professor of history and philosophy of science, also maybe history of technology. I'm not sure what his exact title is right now. And the book is an exhaustive examination of something he calls material culture in the history of physics in the 20th century. And it's riddled with details about experimental apparatuses, which, as he says, are on the boundary between epistemic understandings of the world. It's about engine grease and bumping elbows. And what I mean by that is that science is not just about the Stephen Hawkings and Albert Einsteins of the world. It's not just about theory. If you really want to understand the history of science in the West in the 19th century, the history of science in the 20th century, you need to understand that it was never just about the mind or the math. It was also about the apparatus. And he gives a bunch of examples, including, it's good. So, to help explain what on earth we're doing and why this matters contextually, thank you, Dan, for sending me this postcard. Here is a super famous painting, which is too lit. There we go. Lit, not lit. It is the Academy, and it hangs in Rome. And these blokes in the middle are it's Plato and Aristotle. And Plato, famously, is pointing at the sky, and Aristotle is pointing at the ground. Now, Plato was Aristotle's teacher, history behind it, but the reason that I bring it up is because the question implicit in this is which is more real? Is the world of the mind and the heavens and the mathematical abstract world more real? Or is the sort of like gritty, dirty, messy world that we trudge through on a day-to-day level, is that real? So is the world of matter real, or is the world of mind real? And that most real. And that distinction ends up playing out in the history of Western philosophy, just lots of different ways. I think I have to plug this in. Sorry. Okay. So here's the quote. Pardon the jargon. We'll get through it together. I find most congenial a view that might be called a historicized neo-Kantianism. That is, we have the totality of our theoretical, instrumental, and laboratory practices. Using them, we have assembled a historically evolving description of what there is and how it works. Blah, 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 blah. It's empirically realistic, not transcendentally realistic. Transcendental realism, the view that there is something beyond, prior, or outside of any possible conception, leads, according to Kant, to some form of idealism. Skipping a bunch, we'll get back to that. I completely concur with Davidson when he concludes, in giving up the dualism of scheme and world, we do not give up the world. Instead, as he puts it, we reestablish unmediated touch with the familiar objects whose antics make our sentences and opinions true or false. The world, in both its stubborn physicality and its mathematical abstraction, is where we live. What we make of the physical world is not a degraded approximation to a capital R reality, ever out of reach. Okay, so let's break that down. First, capital R reality, is it ever out of reach? Implicit in this language is the question of like what is most real? Is it the disembodied transcendental reality? I'm sorry for conflating transcendentalism with Plato, but like you get the point. Is reality of the mental disembodied world more real, or is it the reality of the broken, dirty world that we live in? And if so, like we can't access that perfectly mental world, but if it's the physical world, then we can't comprehend it fully via the intellect. So is reality Plato's reality, or is it Aristotle's reality? So the language that he uses to start breaking this down is the scheme in the world. Quoting Davidson, in giving up the dualism of scheme and world. The dualism of scheme and world has shaken, founded, and built its way into the arteries of Western philosophy for millennia. And Davidson's saying, and Galison is saying, if we give up that dualism, we just say, we don't lose the world. We do not give up the world. Instead, we reestablish unmediated touch with the familiar objects whose antics make our sentences and opinions true or false. So I have you can have an opinion about something that's hard to see. You can have an opinion about, like, whatever, Jupiter's moons, how many are there or something. And if we can't see it, then it's hard to, like, have an argument about it. But if you have an opinion that I can, like, pass a bookmark through a book this direction, like, obviously, yeah, it goes there. But, like, if your opinion is that, I'm sorry, the physical world proves your opinion incorrect. I almost don't want to argue with someone who thinks that otherwise. Like, you just can't do it. It's not physically possible. So what he's saying here is that we have an unmediated access to this world, this physical world, because we're in it. And because we have unmediated access to the physical world, we seemingly are able to pull truths. But doesn't that lean us into Aristotle? But he's saying no, it doesn't lean us into that one, because he has got a both-and approach. Back to the quote. The world, in both its stubborn physicality and its mathematical abstraction, is where we live. So this, I think, is why I really just, like, really found this quote cool, because the world is not either gritty material or mathematically abstract. The very conditions for an ordered universe, or rather, I'll say it like this, the order of the world allows us to give up the duality, because the order of the world embodies the duality in that it is both material and mathematically ordered. Because we have the ability, because the universe is ordered, it can be simultaneously both. And because we have a mediated touch and access with the world, we can have both. So, conclusion, right? There may be a drive in philosophy and in science to live as, like, pure intellects, as metaphysicians who, like, fly above the dirt and the machines and the engine grease of the world. But Galison's view is that we don't have to split like that. We can have both. And the reason that we can have both is because the universe is both stubbornly physical and mathematically intellectual. It's both here and in front of us, and mathematically ordered such that it can prove us correct or incorrect. And so, living in the engine grease reality, which I keep using those words, and that's like what a huge chunk of what the whole beginning of the book is about. Living in embodied reality doesn't degrade our understanding of reality. It's in fact the only thing that gives us access to reality itself. And that's why he's a historicized neo-Kantianism. Historicized, we'll just have to talk about later. So our dependence on the world physically is what gives us access to the intellectual aspects of the world, because of the order of the world. Is the world imperfect? Yes. Is our understanding of it evolving? Yes. But it's still absolutely reality. Hey, hope you guys enjoyed. This book obviously has way, way, way more in it than just what I talked about here, and I would encourage you, if you have any interest in philosophy of science, or philosophy of physics, or history of science, to go check it out. It's got a lot going on in it, including some stuff that maybe I'll talk about later, but I don't know. I thought that quote was cool and worth the time. If you're new around here, hit like, hit subscribe. If you got nerdy friends that are interested in this sort of thing, also let them know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.